Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the show. And as you can tell, we have a very, very special guest indeed. I've had a lot of requests to get a guest from the great show American Horror Story. And as you can tell, we are joined by Naomi Grossman, who is well known to be Pepper in the TV show. Naomi, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. I'm trying to get just the right amount of, am I hot or not? Do you need it hot, lighter?
That's less? Perfect. No, you are perfect.
No one cares. It's a podcast, right?
Exactly.
How can Pepper be so vain?
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. And as I said to you sort of briefly off camera, we have had a lot of requests from the American Horror Story franchise. So it's amazing to have you on the show today.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Wonderful.
So just before we kind of go into the big TV show, I'm really kind of interested to know more about your story and your sort of introduction into acting and your sort of life before the show. So how did you kind of start your career in acting?
Well, I have to tell you first, I must tease you with my new show, which is, it's a 1 hour, or well, it's a little longer, but it's a comedy, one-woman show, which basically tells that story. So wow. I will answer your question, but not without asking you to please, when it comes to your town, buy yourself a ticket, do yourself a treat, give yourself a treat, and do me a favor and buy a ticket and come see it, because it's a much better it's curated version. But I will attempt to at least answer the question. So my parents were always really great about exposing me to culture from a really young age. We go see the ballet and the theater and the opera and the symphony and the cinema, you name it. And so just from a really young age, I remember, sitting in the audience, wishing I were up there. And soon I was, I got involved with some children's theater in town, that town being Denver, which isn't exactly like a mecca for entertainment, but, whatever came through Denver, I got involved with. So whether that was, regional commercials or Father Dowling Mysteries, that was one of the big TV shows that was, shot there at the time, which of course dates me. I'm proud to say it's no longer on my resume. It was for like a painfully long time, because the fact is, I didn't have success as an actor right away at all. It did seem for a while that people would pay me to do pretty much anything but act. And again, that's what my new show, American Horror Story, is all about. It's sort of my history of hustling, from the odd jobs I've held to my even odder love life. So you can look forward to that. But I was the lead of all the plays in high school. Then I went on to Northwestern, which is a pretty prestigious school here in the United States, in Chicago. I was there with Seth Meyers and Heather Headley, and a lot of like Catherine Hahn, like a lot of name actors and performers at this point. They have a very reputable theater department, so I kind of came out of there just expecting, like, ready for my close-up. I got my degree, and next my TV show, like that's how it goes, right? Well, obviously it didn't. And I hustled for a really long time here in Hollywood. My college boyfriend was a PA on Friends, and that was of course the hot show at the time. Yeah. So I followed him out here rather, being Los Angeles, because if you're getting Jennifer Aniston coffee, you're pretty much as close to having made it as can be, right? So anyway, I followed him out here. That of course lasted maybe 5 minutes, and then like I said, I was spent a lot of time auditioning, getting callbacks, on a veil pinned, and then crickets.
Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I was doing plays, and actually brought one of my two solo shows to the UK. I can tell by your accent, your location.
Yes.
So yeah, I brought Carnival Knowledge, Love, Lust, and Other Human Oddities to the Edinburgh Fringe. And from there it was transferred to London's West End. And you know, it did off Broadway in New York, universities nationwide. It had a whole life. But like I said, as far as Hollywood was concerned, I was going on like, I don't know how long, competing for hits against cat videos. Like, I was going a little cuckoo until, American Horror Story changed all that. It definitely kind of put me on the map. But, the fact is, if you're a creative, if you're kind of called, as I believe I was, I mean, it's almost like being a priest or something. Like, you feel in your heart, like, this is where, like, God wants you to go. I really felt like this was all there was for me. And so, conversely, I also joke that it's almost akin to being gay. Like, you can't pray the gay away. You can't, like, I couldn't just pray the actor away. Like, believe me, I would have. It wasn't going anywhere. And so I just had to kind of embrace it. And I mean, I am thankful for my own sanity's sake that things sort of worked out for me. But at the same time, honestly, even if they hadn't, I'd still probably be doing the same old thing. I'd still be creating my own solo shows. In fact, I am, and that's what this third show is about. I'd still be making silly YouTube videos. I'd still be, auditioning, getting callbacks on a veil pin, you name it. So that's sort of been my journey.
Yeah, it's fantastic you kind of talk about that, because I think I feel sometimes with people that are fan of TV shows, or like a core fan base for an actor even, they kind of maybe think that person was always pushed to play a certain role. But obviously, like, the thing I love about these interviews, and like you've, Ed, with your story, is you have to work hard. Nothing comes easy. There are so many sort of rejections and so many setbacks, but because it's something embedded within you to do this love, this art, that's what keeps you going, and that's what drives you. And I think it kind of shows, because with some of your work I've seen, I mean, you really bring every character to life, and I can as a fan and a viewer, I can watch and see the love you have just by playing a character.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. Well, what you first said about how so many times we think that, like, they're coming to us with the character. I mean, no, like, I did make the discovery through my years of, pounding the pavement, that I am indeed a character actress. Like, I, failed in the ingenue department right away. So I knew, like, if anything, I was going to make it as a character comedian, and in a way that's kind of a relief, because it means it's a much longer career, for one. You know what I mean? I mean, for all we know, I'll really hit when I get to be about, Betty White's age. So that's awesome. Time's on my side. But so yeah, I mean, I figured out, like, they always say you kind of have to find your niche, or get a gimmick or whatever. And I think that's good advice to a point. I think, yes, I was smart to target my, instead of having this super wide umbrella to capture, like, anything and everything that was entertainment. I think for me to sort of look deep inside and see what it is that I bring that maybe others don't. And the fact is, that is a true character actor, one who's willing to just go there. And it's funny, like if you look back at my older work, you'll see like I play all the characters, like
Yes.
big hair, big, big wigs, big lips, big eyes, big everything. Pepper is big under her own right. She just doesn't have as much hair, she doesn't have as much
Yeah.
lips, like she's
Yeah.
but she's that same level of like woo over the top. And so yeah, that's what I'm good at, and I'm fortunate enough that UDK, that's the casting company that cast American Horror Story, was able to see that. I mean, in so many ways, people say like, how did they think to, you as that? Like, how do you make that leap? And it's true. It's quite remarkable. And yet, the fact is, they knew like I was an improviser, and a lot of Pepper's role was improv. I mean, the fact is, a lot of not a lot of it is on the page. The page says, Pepper goes pee, or Pepper, grunts some monosyllabic noise, but there's a lot of what I'm doing is not actually on there. It's just being there in the moment. So, they need an improviser was a good choice. Also, they needed someone kind of unknown, because let's face it, if you're going to cover somebody's face with prosthetics, like, they're paying a premium for Kathy Bates' face. So why would you cover that up? So finding someone like an unknown who versed in improv with a background in theater was, because let's face it, I was having to really act to the back row. Like those prosthetics, you have to like act through the prosthetics. If you do this, like, nothing against, Dame Judi Dench, obviously she's a goddess, but let's face it, her face, she's like the queen of subtlety, right? I mean, her face doesn't move, and it's not even Botox. Like, she just has that much control. I, on the other hand, am on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, I have no control. That's not true. I do, but I really I'm very, very animated. You can tell just by looking at me, or talking to me. So, but I had to act through the makeup. I needed to like penetrate those prosthetics, so that you could still, get whatever was going on in spite of them. So, yeah, in a lot of ways it was, genius casting. And I know that sounds gross coming out of my mouth, but
no, to be
kudos
honest,
to them, and thank you to them.
No, exactly. I think after seeing you perform as Pepper, I stand by. I don't think there's anybody else that could have played Pepper sort of the way you did. And I'm kind of interested. So obviously we'll go on to the big American Horror Story. So when it came to the audition process, because I know you were on the show very early on, did you know much about the show, or how much of the show did you sort of know about before your audition or during your audition?
No, I knew nothing. I spoke to one of my best friend who watches a lot of TV, and he'd seen Murder House, and so he was able to kind of fill me in. But of course, none of that actually helped me for the audition. That said, I think I had a sense of the tone. If you're acting alongside Jessica Lange, that's different than Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I did have a sense of like the tone, maybe, but I didn't have a lot of info going in. Even as to what the character was, like the breakdown, and that is pretty much like a couple line sort of description that goes out to all the agents and managers in Hollywood, letting them know what American Horror Story is looking for. Read 4 to 5 feet tall, possibly malformed, childlike. So, I know, I'm petite, so I got that going for me. I'm not malformed, and I'm not going to try to be. So, like, if I got the audition, I must be enough. Like, clearly that's not a deal breaker. And childlike, that's just something I can play. So, sure enough, in the audition itself, they gave me a ball, and they asked me to try to get them to play with me as if I were a 4-year-old. Now, of course, in my brain, I'm like, 4-year-old, like, film and listen, theater, they cast adults as 4-year-olds all the time. You know what I mean? Like, they cast adults as trees and as monkeys and as, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, in film and television, like, if you need a 4-year-old, you cast a 4-year-old. So I'm like, what is this exactly? Didn't know. But I played my best 4-year-old, and then they had me do a little monologue of Jessica Lange's from season 1, which again, I was totally confusing to me, because why in the world would you, why am I auditioning for this role that's already been shot? Yeah. But of course, it's most likely, I figured out, like, they needed to see that I had range. They most likely did not have the later Pepper dialogue written, and yet they knew where she was going. They knew that they needed me to be able to, speak and act and be sort of a evolved, Dr. Pepper or Priest Pepper or whatever it was, that the later, alien abducted Pepper. And so, they needed to see that I had that range, that I could go from playful to evolved. Yeah.
So when it came to, once you were casted for the role as Pepper, and kind of you got a bit more information regarding sort of who Pepper was and the show and what was happening in that series, when it came to the look, Pepper's look, was any of that sort of input that you had, or was it all just kind of set in stone for you for Pepper to look that certain way, primarily with like the hair and things like that?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to say, but mostly because I'm just a team player, and
yeah,
I knew I had Emmy winning makeup and hair surrounding me, and so I was just there to fulfill their vision. They did entertain the idea of a ball cap, and I would have loved that. I wasn't necessarily trying to shave my head, but I could also just feel that they would rather, and I just didn't want to risk it. I knew that this was a opportunity for me, and I didn't want to even think about the possibility of losing that opportunity. So I just went for it. But and again, I guess I'm not Jessica Lange. Like, I didn't feel like I had that kind of say. Obviously, had something like hurt me, they would have adjusted it, but it didn't.
yeah.
Like, and yeah, a lot of it is just kind of knowing your place, and my place at the time was being a yes man, and I'm that way anyway.
Yeah, it was
What is
team playing,
hair?
like you said. Yeah,
What's that?
it's like you said, it's being a team player, and being a team player is what you need in these kind of roles.
Well, sure. And I can't tell you how many, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I just worked on a show in which one of the leads was replaced because she felt that the wardrobe wasn't as sexy as she wanted it to be. And go figure. I can't imagine, like, oh, that would be just heart-wrenching to, like, lose a job over like your ego like that,
Yes.
Yeah, but it happens, if they get the sense that you're not, because at the end of, like I said, at the end of the day, that's not my job. Like, that's the wardrobe's job. So I think that's another kind of misconception that I think people have in Hollywood. Like we're just waltzing into our fittings. Like, I'll wear this. No, I mean, the way I see it, like, I know how Naomi dresses. Like, you tell me how Pepper dresses. Like, we're creating this together. Like, I know how Pepper acts, but you know, it's that's what the costumer does. So, you know, I've been in you know, low budget film situations where they're like, oh, you know, yeah, bring some jeans. I'm like, wait, what? Like, first of all, you know, skinny jeans, mom jeans, boots with the fur, you know, boots with the fur jeans. Like, what do you mean jeans? Like, you're the costumer, you bring the jeans. Like, if you know, if there's no money for jeans and you need me to bring jeans, I'll bring jeans, but you tell me what jeans to bring.
Yes.
I haven't shown you the rest of this room, but it's all clothes. Like, you know, I'm not a breeder. I do not have babies, but I do have clothes, and I got all the jeans, even though I don't wear jeans. But you know, again, the point is that's for them to decide, and really not for me to weigh in on, unless they ask, you know.
Yeah.
If and even then, I'm thinking about the character first. You know what I mean? It's not about how Naomi looks. Like, I have to put my own vanity aside. Like, and let me tell you, that has worked out for me. Because let's face it, like, you know, if I'd been vain, I could have been like, no fat suit for Pepper. Well, yes, of course, fat suit for Pepper. That's part of the transformation. And guess what? Then when I get to, you know, grace the red carpet, people are all the more shocked that I don't have that body. So, duh. Yeah, people are like, oh, was it hard to look that ugly? I'm like, no, like, it was first of all, I got to eat anything I wanted from craft services, and then, like I said, now I'm showered with these compliments of how beautiful I am, and it's ridiculous. I'm really not, but by comparison,
no, you're stunning.
you're
stunning.
No, I knew you were gonna, like, it was gonna sound like I was fishing for compliments, but I'm not. But
no, of course, no, I know. So in regards to the episodes that you were in, or the series that you were in American Horror Story, so those series, because obviously for the people that maybe haven't seen the show, you know, every season's like a completely different story and a different almost taste and style. With your seasons, they're very creepy, eerie seasons. I think at times they might have been a bit like tough to watch, those seasons, and I think they're very powerful. What was it like actually filming those seasons, and what was it like sort of behind the scene? Did it kind of feel as serious and eerie as it kind of looked on camera?
Yes and no. I mean, I am the comic relief of the asylum, without a doubt. I mean, Ryan Murphy even said as much at one point. I think he called me the comic relief. And even then, I remember always, like, running into producers in the hallway saying, oh my God, you're hilarious in tonight's episode. And I was like, it's not a comedy, but okay. Thank you. I think that, so for me personally, it wasn't that dark because I was just having fun. And people were having fun with me. Like, I remember some of the crew actually saying to me, like, pull my finger, you know. And it's like, I was like, is this how you act around, like, people that are a little different? Like, because I'm like, you do realize underneath all this makeup, I'm just a woman. I'm like 40 something normal person, and like, you probably wouldn't walk up to me and be like, pull my finger. But okay. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that I was kind of the, I don't want to say class clown, because I wasn't clowning. I mean, I wasn't like pranking people or anything. I mean, I'm very serious. Like, when the when they call action, we're
Yeah.
on. Like it's a business, and we're, we take it seriously.
Mhm.
But my role is very playful, and therefore I was probably having the most fun of everyone. I do remember when I came back, as after the aliens, I remember the makeup people saying like, "Oh, you're not as fun as you were," and I was like, well, yeah, I'm not here to entertain you. Like, I've got monologues to like deliver. I've got to like have my thinking cap on. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I was fun then because Pepper was fun. Now Pepper's got her head screwed on straight, and so must I.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just your perception according to the lens that you're wearing at the time. And so maybe Sarah Paulson, who was, let's face it, locked in a creepy, Dr. What's his name, Thredson's basement, like bawling her eyes out, might have a different like perception of the season. I was playing with string, and
Mhm.
so what's not to love about that?
So do you have any like standout or memorable moments that sort of really stick out into your head the most at all throughout any of your time whilst working with American Horror Story?
Oh man, I mean, we don't have time for all that. Just because there's so many.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, as always, it's the people make it. Um, I mean, it's like this dream cast. I mean, at once upon a time, television was sort of the ugly stepchild. Like, if everybody wanted to be a movie star, and
Yes.
now movie stars are on TV, and especially on this show.
Oh,
So that
the
was,
lineup's insane.
exciting. What's that?
The lineup, if you look at all the cast for American Horror Story, is probably one of the best there's been in a long time.
Oh, it's insane. And I mean, you got to figure, you got people like Adam Levine, for example, from Maroon 5, is killed in the first 5 minutes. Like, you're gonna kill the hottest guy in pop music, but keep me? Like, what planet are we on? No, it's like it's insane the amount of talent. But also, like the freak show season really stands out for me, because well, first off, we were on location, which is just a whole nother experience. You're like basically moved to a kind of a freak dorm, where we're all kind of coexisting, living together, Amazon Eve's cooking tonight, Danny's doing laundry. Like, it's sort of this really just surreal time, in New Orleans, no less, which is infinitely more interesting than Los Angeles, although I live here. And yeah, but also, like I said, it was the people. I remember once going to visit Rose Siggins, who unfortunately has passed, but she played Legless Susie.
Oh, okay.
And she had, I mean, obviously with her condition, she probably had, all kinds of physical challenges. And she was in the hospital at one point, and I remember going to visit her. And I remember like knocking on this door and opening it, and creaked open, and there was Rose in the hospital bed. Next to her, Sarah Paulson, and then next to her, Jessica Lange. And I thought, wow, like, how did I become to enter this room? We've got a woman who until now was a auto mechanic in Pueblo, Colorado, which is a very blue collar area. I'm from Colorado myself. Like, literally, but let's face it, that's a perfect job. If you don't have legs, if you're pretty much a torso, and like you can just be propped on a skateboard and roll under a car and quick fix it and roll back out. I mean, it's like, the rest of us have to like crawl around on our hands and knees. She doesn't even have to do that. She's so you've got like like Rose, right? Like auto mechanic from Pueblo, side by side with Sarah, who is at this point like about to win all the Emmys, and next to Jessica, who has won all the Emmys and Oscars and about to win more. So, and then me, and I'm like, how did I get here? Like, this is crazy when you think about it. But that's how it was every day. Every day we were coming together, and it was such a unique time because, you know, the fact is there is kind of a hierarchy in Hollywood. You know, the background extras don't exactly fraternize with the series regulars, and yet there we were really truly a family. And I've heard so many casts say that in, you know, Q&As, etc. But this was really, you know, Elsa Mars and her, you know, cabinet of curiosities, and we were, all of us had kind of had equal weight. We were all important. You had no freak show without the freaks, and that went for the, you know, born freaks, for lack of a better word, and those of us who you know, had been brought back for another season. So it was a really special time, and I really value those friendships. You know, all of them, from you know, the Rose Siggins to the Jessica Langs, were there. There was not a bad apple in that bunch, and that's really special.
Yeah, you know, that's so beautiful to hear, because as I said, I've interviewed quite a few people from different movies and TV shows, and a lot of people have some good experiences, but I've never really heard an experience like this, where it very much felt like everyone was an equal, everyone was like a family, you know. And I think that's really, I think that's really important for some people to hear as well, because I think they need to know that, you know, Hollywood might have a bit of some sort of stigma, but, you know, not every show or every production company is like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's, let's face it, all the different personalities make it up, and you never know what you're gonna get. You know, like I said, a one bad apple can ruin the bunch.
Yes.
You know, I mean, this new TV show that I've just sort of teased is in its infancy. It's the very first season, and so everyone is so excited. They're all like, we're gonna be best friends. And of course, I can just imagine, like, season 5, they're gonna be over it, and there's gonna be some divas, and there's gonna be some, you know, everyone's gonna kind of find their place in the kind of hierarchy, etc. But it is a beautiful thing when a cast sort of comes together and loves one another, and because that's important. You know, you're really, you need to trust each other.
Absolutely.
It's a dance, you know. It's I mean, acting is it's reacting, you know. And so if you suck, like, I'm gonna suck with you. Because it's a back and forth always.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like a volley, and if you're not hitting the balls over the net, like, what you're giving me nothing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, no, the cast, the people are everything in American Horror Story.
So I'm sure after the show, you know, there's always been a lot of a very strong fan base for Pepper. You know, I'm sure you've probably experienced that a lot through sort of fans of yourself as well as the show. Do you ever attend any sort of comic conventions or like these events where they can meet people?
All the time. I'm going to be in your area.
Yes, I'm attending. I'm attending the event.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I'll meet you in person then.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So For the Love of Horror is in Manchester, England.
Manchester, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't have the date right in front of me. But it's mid-October.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like the 22nd.
Yeah, I'll make sure I add all the links to it, because I am attending the
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Be amazing, yeah. But do you have any other sort of conventions coming up?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if your listeners are mostly in the UK, then that's the best place to find me immediately. But in the US, I am all over the place, especially in October. So I would say to just follow my socials and find out where I am. I'll be in Atlanta over the weekend, then Iowa a week from that. Then the next weekend I'll be in North Carolina for another con and a haunt. Then Manchester, and then back to North Carolina. So
very busy.
Yeah,
month.
I'm all over the place. And then Colorado. And then who knows? It's always something.
So just to sort of finish things off, Samika, I always like to ask all the guests, if you could give the listeners or the viewers of this one piece of advice, what would that be?
I mean, I sort of have my own kind of mantras, which are to thine own self be true. I mean, I really do believe that you have to, know yourself better than anyone, and you have to and I'm guilty of it myself, like kind of forcing a round peg into my, square hole or what, like when I know something isn't working, like still kind of manipulating it. And the fact is, sometimes we just know for ourselves when something's right or not, and to just be true to that and honor what you know for yourself. I knew in my soul that this is what I was supposed to do. It was confirmed when I was in Edinburgh performing every night, and when I had to leave, I was like weeping. I didn't want to leave, and it loved climbing uphill both ways with a pack full of dildos to perform for 50 drunk people every night, that much. Like, that's how much I loved it. And there was no fame in it. There was certainly no fortune. The IRS audited me after that. They were like, why are you gallivanting around the UK claiming you have expenses? But I knew that's what I was meant to do. And so you have to honor that. And I think I do think a lot of people are daunted by the work, or don't believe enough in themselves, or are seduced by the idea of fame or fortune. And the fact is, those things are never guaranteed. What is guaranteed is a lot of work. And like I said, if you're in Edinburgh, rain and hills. So, unless you just love slogging uphill, in the, you probably should do something else. But the fact is, I love it that much. I love it enough to that I don't mind slogging uphill. So that's what I mean by like, to thine own self be true. I knew myself enough to not be daunted by the work. I might have been a little seduced by the idea of fame and fortune, but the fact is, I love the work enough that it didn't matter. Another mantra I love is love yourself so fiercely that you show others how it should be done. Wow. And I think a lot of that goes back to what I was talking about. Like, I love myself enough that to realize, like, I would be doing myself I would be denying myself like my true calling if I'd like become an accountant or decided to get into real estate. Again, I probably would have found maybe not fame, but fortune for sure, much sooner. In fact, I still haven't found it. But that, I like I said, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't have been honoring myself. And it's true. The minute you sort of show others how to love you is when they do.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And Naomi, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you.
Ah, good. I'm so sorry I'm so long-winded.
Oh
You're
no,
like,
no,
oh
this is what
man,
we love.
good preparation for when you meet me at the table. And you're like, oh, well, that's why she has a line, because she's having like an in-depth heart to heart with every fan she meets. It's true. No, that's not true. But I am a talker, and I do love my fans, and put two and two together, and you can't get me off the podcast.
As I said, I'll make sure to add all your social media links down below in the description. And also, if you send me a link to your show, I can also make sure to add all that as well, so people can kind of immediately come and check it out for you.
Sure. I can tell you the website is not live yet, but it will be shortly. And that is just American Horror, I'm sorry, Horror Story, WHORE.com. Coming soon. So.
And I'm sure if people follow your social medias, it'll be posted there anyway. So that's a way they can get it. Thank you once again, Naomi. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. See you soon.